don't know from the Bible, but we know from the Quran. I say we don't know from the Bible because the biblical scholars themselves, and I would like to mention a few. Recently we had Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code that came out and clearly exposed a lot, because they were quoting, although it was a fictional story, the quotes that he gave and the information he gave was based on real scholars' work.
Yes.
In fact, those same scholars sued him for plagiarism. I don't know if they won or not, but it's not the point. Also, we have another scholar by the name of Richard Elliott Friedman, who wrote the book called Who Wrote the Bible? And then we have recently another of the Christian scholars. Richard Elliott Friedman happens to be Jewish, and he's talking about the Old Testament. The New Testament scholars have come to the same conclusion. For instance, F.F. Bruce, and then very recently, Bart Aaron.
Yeah.
He wrote a book, Lost Christianities. After that, he wrote Misquoting Jesus. And when you read it, you're going to say, how can I have any faith in the Bible anymore at all? He became an atheist. He was a dyed-in-the-world, Bible-thumping, Jesus-loving, born-again Christian, until he started studying at Princeton. And he found out that all the stuff he was saying and being taught was just air. The actual reality, what he saw in front of him, caused him to lose all faith. And this is what we do not want. We do not want Jews, Christians, or Muslims to lose faith. What we want to do is come together and come closer on what is true. What can we prove? What have we got evidence for?
We need evidence.
We have solid evidence.
Authentic evidence.
I came to Islam because of evidence. I was clearly motivated by evidence only. And the inspiration comes to me after seeing evidence. Then I think, okay, that makes sense. But to blindly follow something and say, this is my faith, that's blind faith. Even the Bible that exists today in English states that you're not supposed to do that. To have blind faith, the blind following the blind. What is that? It's hard, though, when you've grown up hearing people say over and over and over a certain statement, you can't help but fill in the blanks. There are just certain things you're going to say. Whether it's a little jingle from television, somebody starts it, you finish it. Something that you're used to seeing in the news, or something that you hear in the streets that people start saying, you can't help but finish it because it's what you've heard all your life.
And that's what all they're doing is filling in the blanks, really.
Yeah. Mary had a little
lamb.
It has to be. What are you going to say? Mary had a little Cadillac? It doesn't work. It's like, what'd you say?
So we want the people to stop, use their brain,
Yeah.
think. Don't let the pastor think for you. Don't let this man over here, CNN, think for you.
And don't misquote things.
Yeah.
What I just said, Mary had a little lamb. That's common. Everybody knows that. But if you misquote it, you could say, see, here's a woman who gave birth to a sheep. That's what it says. Mary had a little lamb. Don't you say, oh, this woman had a little boy? Oh, okay, you mean by that she gave birth. Here we don't mean that at all. We're saying that she owned it. And there's a big difference. If you said God had a son, what are you saying? No, God owns all of his creation, including this great Messiah and prophet.
So what we have from a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, a copy, what's not a copy of the original, is there anywhere in this that Jesus explicitly, not implicitly, says that I am the Son of God?
No, not really.
No, okay.
No, he doesn't say I am.
No, he doesn't. He actually says I'm the Son of Man.
This is what we find.
About 83 times, no?
One of the things they'll say is, well, look where he said, I am that I am. And that's what God said in the Old Testament, I am that I am. But you don't know what that was, even in the Koine Greek.
Yeah.
All right. For instance, there's another one, and when it talks about in John, the Gospel of John, that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and God spoke the Word, and the Word became flesh. And they use all of this to say it was Jesus, but nowhere in those, up until 19 verses after this starts up, do you find the word Jesus is not even connected to the expression. Okay? But actually, in the Greek, which is a translation of a translation of a copy of whatever, according to these scholars I just quoted from, in the Greek even it didn't say that. It didn't say that. In the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word God. There's no was there. The Word God. That's it. That's how it actually is. So you can't even use that as a basis for the argument. Even a copy of a translated copy of a copy of a copy of a, you can't use it because it didn't actually say that.
And then we got to go actually back to the time, like if you say today, in the place where we live in America, and you say, I need a lift, someone's going to think you need a ride. But if you go to England, you say, I need a lift, it's an elevator. So when you go back to the time, if you go back to the time of Jesus, peace be upon him, and the Jews knew this language the best. What did they mean at that time when they referred to Son of God? Did they actually mean what we think it means today?
Actually, this is a good point you're bringing up. This is something very famous in the Semitic world for the Jews, for the Arabs, and for the people of the Aramaic descendancy, that they would use this term Ben. Ben actually means the son. For instance, Benjamin is really Benyamin, which means the son of the right. Yamin it means the right hand or the right side. Benyamin is the son of the right. And Ben Kacha was one of the famous tribes. And in Arabic, you talk about Beni Hashim. And you're talking about the tribes of the people of Hashem, the Hashemites. And if you said somebody is Abdullah ben Saba, or if you said that, which happened to have been a Jew who came to Islam, somebody is Ben Salam, he's the son of. So this is just something that people normally say. Now there's another word, Abd. Abd means the servant of. So people had servants. And many times the servant would take the name of the master, as in, I am the servant of so-and-so, or the, the slave of so-and-so. And this went on for a long time until Islam came, and then it was forbidden to say that you're a slave anymore, because God doesn't like slavery, by the way. Allah doesn't like it. He encourages Muslims to free slaves all the time. So if there's slavery going on, the only real slavery should be the slave is ultimately the slave of Almighty Allah. So Allah, and you put Abd in front of it. Abd, Allah, Abdullah. Have you heard people name Abdullah?
Yeah.
Abdullah, you probably know somebody named Abdullah. So he's actually the servant of God, servant of Allah, Abdullah.
Yes.
Well, if somebody was using that term, Abdullah, and then somebody else said Ben Allah, Beni Allah, he's actually saying the son of God, or descendancy of God.
So this was someone, a pious person, a righteous
Ibn,
person.
they can say Ibn. Ibn is another way to say, you say Ben or Ibn, both of these are the same thing. Ibn Allah.
So at that time it meant someone righteous.
I don't know. I'm just telling you this is the word. I'm not going to try to tell you, I'm not going to make up anything. What I know, I'll talk about. What I don't know about, I'll say, I don't know. And this is the way that if you want to have a rational discussion, when you come to a point where you don't know something, you say, I don't know. And this keeps everything on an even keel. And this is one of the things we lack a lot in the West today, is when a person doesn't know, you don't need to punt. You need to stop and say, this is a case where I can't answer that, we'll move on.
I see. Okay, well, we're going to ask a couple more questions before we come to a close. So let's go back to, we jumped into the Bible a little bit. Let's stay there, then we'll go away from there. But real quickly, if you take where people are saying Jesus is the Son of God, we can go back and say, okay, let's be fair all across the board, because the Bible actually has sons by the tons. Adam was a son of God, David was a son of God. So why explicitly only to Jesus? Can you give us some examples here?
All right. Again, we know in prophecy from the Quran as Muslims, but also for the Jews in their prophecy, they're holding on to. They talk about one who will come, who is the anointed and the appointed one to be the king of the Jews. And this expression is used in the Bible, and it's understood in Arabic as well as the one who is chosen, the chosen one. And this is the one chosen not by the people, but chosen by God. And this is the point of being chosen. Okay, so when you're talking about the chosen one, the Jews themselves chose their kings. They, through their own electoral college, like we have today, chose from their elite, chose who should be the king amongst them. And when they